Hi, I'm Jennifer with True North Leatherworks, and today I'm going to show you how to sew this leather origami crane from the kit that I've put together. Okay, we are going to now start on our leather origami crane. Okay, so first I'm going to open up my bag. Okay, I've got a needle on a piece of washi tape, and that is just so that you don't lose it. And it's easy to find. Okay, I have the body of my crane. This is actually two pieces of leather that I've glued together for you. I've got a little piece of cord. We'll use that in a little bit. And then I have the body part. And then two sets of wings, which were also glued together, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I have one longer piece of thread and then two shorter pieces of thread. So I'm going to separate each of those out. I'm going to take my needle and one of the shorter pieces of thread, and I'll thread my thread through the needle, and then I'm going to poke the tip of the needle through the thread twice, and slide it down the needle, and then pull the thread tight. And that locks my thread onto my needle so I don't lose it. Okay, here we have our origami crane. So I'm going to take the washi tape off my needle. I've got two wings, these parts, and then I have my long thread and two shorter threads, as well as my cord. So we are going to start with the wings. So I'm going to undo the thread, separate them out. So two, I'll set that one there. I'm going to thread my needle, and then poke the needle through my thread. I'll do that twice, and then I pull the thread off the needle, down, and then I pull the thread, and that locks my thread on my needle. Then I'm going to take one of my wings. You want to look at your wings and decide which side you want to be up, like facing out like this. So on this one, because sometimes there might be some marks or the coloration might be a little bit different. This is personal preference. I am going to go with this side up. So on the up side is where you want to start your stitching. Okay, so I'm going to pull my needle and thread through the first hole. I'm going to leave a tail about an inch or two long, and then I am just going to stitch all the edges. The holes are pre-punched. This part is easy, it's just time consuming, it's a lot of stitching. But when we assemble all the pieces together, that's where the difficulty really becomes apparent. So for now, we're just going to work our way around the wing, and I will be fast forwarding through parts of these stitching parts because It's not interesting to look at. Um, you can see I'm going through each hole. I'm not wrapping around. If my needle is on this side coming out, then it goes in on that side, on this side. Just in and out. You want to pull snugly enough that you don't have loose loopy threads, but you don't want to pull tight enough that it um, crunches or bends the leather. This is pretty stiff leather and it's 2 layers glued together, so you can't get too loose or too tight really, but at the same time, you don't want to. Those are common issues that you could have. Okay, so I am almost all the way around this edge. As I get to the end of my line, I'm going to turn around and go back the way I came. So I have a nice uninterrupted. This one I do want to pull a little bit tighter. It came a little loose there as I turned. And you're just going to fill in so you have a nice even line of stitching. The stiffer leather is actually easier to work with, I think, than some of the softer leathers. Just because it's not flopping around on you when you're doing it. Okay, I'm coming to the last few holes. Let's see, my stitching's coming a little bit loose. I'm gonna pull my thread. Tighten that up a bit. Okay, and I'm just gonna fill things in here. Okay, so the reason I had you start it on the top was because this will actually be hidden by this seam. So at this point, we could tie a knot or we could just trim it and melt it. So I'm going to show you both ways. I'll do one way on this wing and then on the other wing I'll show you the other way. So I'm going to tie a knot. Pull that tight and then I'm going to grab my scissors and trim it. Okay, so then take one wing and decide which one you want to be the up side. I want this to be the up, so I'm going to start on this side. Start on the up side, just in case I didn't make that clear. The ending point will be covered by this seam, so that's why I'm going to do that. And then I am just going to stitch in and out, not skipping any holes. Okay, I'm not wrapping around the edge either. I'm not just doing straight, following the holes. I've got a couple stitches in now, so I don't need to keep holding onto my tail. Okay, I'm just stitching. For whatever reason, I'm not finding the holes on the back by feel. I keep flipping it over. Oh, this one has a little bit of an imperfection, but I'm just using it as a demo, so the pieces in your kit won't have that kind of an imperfection. It's just how it cut. But that's why I'm using it, because I didn't want any of you guys to have it. Okay, now I'm at the end, so I'm going to turn around and fill in all the spaces where the thread wasn't. Okay, so this one I'm going to tie. Yeah, it's got a short tail. I'll leave a longer tail on the other wing. So I'm just going to snip this one. Okay, and then I'm going to take my project. I'm going to hold my lighter. I prefer these longer lighters, not the little ones, just because I feel like they're easier to control. I'm going to hold it parallel to my project. I'm not going to hold it like that. That'll burn it. I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to just gently just move it around a little bit. And then I'm going to push it down with the end of my lighter. I tend to use my finger, but you'll get burned that way. I've been doing it for a long time. So nice calluses. Okay, so now we have one wing done. You can see that that's what it looks like. So we've got a little bit of thread left over there. I'm just going to snip it off. Then I'm going to grab my other short piece of thread. I'm going to thread my needle as before. And then I will poke the needle through. And then I am just going to do a repeat with my other wing. And then I'm holding the lighter parallel. Okay, just be careful you don't burn yourself. Okay, and that is one wing done. I'm going to snip the thread off my needle. Okay, so my long thread is still like that, so I want my other short thread. And then I'm going to thread this one just like I did the first one. Once its thread is through the eye, I'm going to poke the thread with the needle twice, scooch it down, pull, and there we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to find which side I want to be up. I think this side, so I'm going to start right here. I'm going to leave a tail, and then just go in and out, all the way around, and then back again. And I will be speeding this up again because honestly, it's not that interesting to watch somebody stitch over and over. Make sure you pull your thread as snugly as you can without making the leather bend. My last wing was a little loose, I think. I could tell that there was some movement in the thread, especially as I came back around. So as I came to the end, I looped myself around a little bit, so I'm going to unloop that. Oh, good job on that. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn around and go back the way I came. Coming to the end. If you noticed, I tugged on the tail to make sure it's not coming loose. These round holes allow a lot more movement for the thread, so make sure you're not coming loose. Okay, so on the other one, I showed you just knotting the threads. For this one, we don't really need to worry about back stitching just because it's going to be in the seam. There's not going to be a lot it can do. Okay. Just like the other one, I want this on top. So let's start here. Oops. Actually, I'm not. I'll go in from the top. So my tail is on the top. This one I'm leaving a longer tail so I can knot it. So I'm going to show you what I did there. And this is just the same as the other wing. Just going in and out. If you come across a hole, there we go. Your needle doesn't want to go through. Try pushing through from the other side to see if that works. That one just wasn't lined up as well as it could have been. Okay, so now that I'm at the end of this line, I'm going to turn around and go back, filling in the spaces. Okay, I just have the last few. I'm going to pull my tail tight. Okay, so just make sure you're not leaving too long of a tail when you start, or you end up with a short thread on the other end. I left it a little bit longer because I was going to tie the knot. but you really don't need to tie the knot. I would just do what I did on the first wing. So this one I didn't knot, and so I am just going to melt the threads where they are. Okay, so now you can see how that ended up. And like I said, they'll be covered by that seam. Okay, so we have our 2 wings done. Okay, so now we're going to cut this thread off the needle. And we're going to grab our long piece of thread. Thread it, making sure to lock the needle onto the thread. Okay. Again, be careful not to burn yourself. Okay, and then I'm going to cut the thread on my needle. And re-thread it. Okay, poke your needle through your thread. Now I'm going to do the head, well, the body, I guess, head and tail. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom here. This is the pretty side. This one not so much. So I'm actually going to start on this side. Okay, and then we're just going to go, oops, move the scissors out of the way. Okay, so we're going to move in and out, just like the wings. I'm just catching the thread on everything. Okay, so that one's just a quick seam. And this one I am going to backstitch because this is visible, so I want that space filled in. Pull my threads on both sides, and then I'm going to come back with that hole and out this one. Okay, just tug, make sure they're snug. And I'll snip. Okay, so I'm actually going to set that aside for a minute. I am going to do this part. Leave a tail. That white stuff is just wax on the thread. If it bothers you, you can just scrape it away with the tip of your needle. Or you can just rub it in. Better. Okay, last hole on this part. but I don't want open space there. So I'm going to and then go here. I'm going to tug both my threads, make sure they're good and snug. I'm going to trim it. Short. And as usual, hold it parallel. And then use, okay. I'm actually going to use my finger. I feel like this particular thread keeps sticking to my lighter. Just make sure you don't burn yourself. Again, make sure that you have proper adult supervision and that you're not burning yourself. And I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to start on the same side as I did that one. Leave a tail. Okay, so I'm back to the end. So again, hold my tail out of the way. And then back stitch one. Out. You don't want to have super long tails because then you won't have enough thread for all of the stitching yourself. Okay, so I want my ending on that side, so that's where I start. Now my tail. Pull. And go back in that one. Pull my threads. I'm going to snip them. Okay, and I'm holding it parallel. Okay, so now we have our head and tail, our wings, our body piece. Okay, and then we have our little cord. Okay, so that is done. We're going to put the ends. So this piece of leather isn't glued, it's just one layer, unlike the rest of it. So we're going to leave the loop on the outside, or the red part, and we're going to tie a knot. So wrap your fingers around your fingers, wrap the cord around your finger, and then push the ends through that loop, and then pull tight. Okay, and then that will keep your loop right there. Okay. So I am going to take my rectangle. I just stuck my cord ends through it. loops on the outside. I'm going to wrap it around my fingers and then push the ends through that loop and then pull the ends. Well, pull it tight enough that it won't come out on its own. Okay, and then that will be like that. You have this line of holes, and then you only have 2 holes here. So we are going to position these 2 holes at the bottom of the line of holes on the wing. I'm going to start from inside this rectangle. I'm going to leave a tail there. And we're going to go here. And, oops, try not to have it pull out. Okay, so you're going to go through the body and the wing on the first one. And you're going to, this is why this is a harder one, because it requires a lot more movement and maneuvering. So we're going to hold the tail so we don't lose our thread again. We're going to fold this out of the way. So on this side, we're going to go back up, but we're only going through the wing. And we're just going to go up the spine of the wing. Oops, out of the way. Okay, so then as I'm getting closer, that's where you want to pay attention. Make sure that you're not going through your cord as well. Okay, so here you can see I have 1 left, so I'm going to go through here. I also have 1 space there. So on this one, I'm going to catch that other hole. Come through. Okay, so I'm going to pull my tail on my thread. There's that piece. So you have all there, and you have these 2. So now, okay, so I'm tying a knot there. I'll make sure that stays nice and good. I'm going to snip it. And it will move, and that's fine. Okay, so again, make sure you don't burn your finger like I almost did. Okay, so then just be careful pushing down on the threads. Okay, so now we have that attached on that one, and we're going to do the same thing on the other one. So this is the side I want up, so I'm going to hold it like that. And just as before, I'm going to go through the bottom hole on the wing. Okay, I'm going to leave a tail there. I'm going to fold the tail with my finger and go out. I'm just doing that 1 hole in the rectangle for now. Oops. Okay, so now I'm done on that one. I just have one right there. So we go through that hole and then tie it just like I did on the other side, on the other wing. Okay, and then I will snip it. And melt those ends. Undone. Again, make sure anytime you're using a lighter that you have a responsible adult around and that you don't burn yourself. Okay, so now we have, looks like this. And we are now going to first take, I've got a bit of thread left over from one of the wings. So I am going to tie it around the middle, kind of like making it, that rectangle look a bit like a bow tie. I'm just going to tie this thread. You don't have to do this, but I feel like it just makes it a little bit easier to get everything to do what it's supposed to. Okay, so then I'm going to maneuver. There. Just really does not want to go in this direction, but that's the shape we want it to do. Okay, and then it doesn't really matter which end is which, heads and tails. Okay, so we're going to fit that body piece here. And then we want all this line of stitching to line up. And it's not going to at first, I'll tell you that. This is definitely the most challenging part of this. It's going to require some patience and some wiggling around. Okay. So I've got my leather sandwich. I've got my thread, and I am going to go through, I'm starting at the tail end right here with my leather sandwich. I'll go through the first wing, the rectangle, the tail and head part. Just came undone. Okay, and then the other side of the rectangle where it's been folded over. So this is the part where you really start. There we go. Okay, and I got it through the needle as well. I mean, through the wing. Okay, so it's lining up a little bit better. It still doesn't really want to do it, but it will. You just gotta coax it a little bit. Move things around a little bit. Okay. Go leave a tail, of course. Okay. So it came out this side, so then just as with all the other stitching, I'm going to go through all my layers. And this part, I'm going to leave the stitching on the loose side, just because it really doesn't want to go there. And you're going to need some movement ability. So I'm not going to pull it tight yet. I've got that next hole done. Okay, so I'm going to pull that through. Now it will be harder to pull the needle through just because you're going through so many layers and because they don't line up exactly right. Like I said, you have to coax it. It'll do it eventually. You can see how loose I've got it, and that's fine. I'll tighten it up in a minute. Okay. Continuing to line things up. Getting that rectangle piece to line up is the most challenging. I feel like the sizing on that isn't quite what it should be. At least with this stiffer leather. Okay, so at this point, I'm over the middle. I'm actually going to start pulling it a little bit snugger from here on out. Okay. Last hole, there we go. Okay, so like I said, I'm pulling that snug now. And I'm going to turn around and go back the way I came. And this is why I pulled it snugger. Try to keep it lined up. But you may need to loosen it a little bit and then tighten it after you find those holes, because this really is a lot more challenging. Especially once you turn around and head back. It'll be challenging both from getting it to line up. So I'm actually going to use my needle to pull my thread snug on that one. So we're trying to get the needle through the holes, but also going through so many layers, it can be difficult to get the needle through them all. There we go. Okay. So check that I'm snug. Now wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. If you need to, use a pair of pliers. Pull that thread. To help pull your needle through. It's just not wiggling. It's got so many layers, and now we're going back through holes that already have thread in them. So what I'm doing with the needle, I'm just kind of wiggling it around in different directions to find the hole in each layer. Okay, you can see it's sticking a little bit. There we go. Got it. And I'm going to pull that thread and pull this thread. And then I'm going to pull this thread. So this is tightening up what I had left loose before. Okay. Just if you do use pliers, make sure you're not bending your needle. That'll make it really hard to get through these holes, especially on this part. We really need to be straight. Okay, so you can see we made it through all those. And this side. Okay, so we can tie a knot here, or we can do a back stitch. Let's see if it wants to cooperate for a back stitch. There we go. See? Right through here. Okay, so I want it on the same side, I think. I'm going to stick that needle back through there. There we go. Pull. Okay, and now I don't even need to knot it because it's so snug. So I'm going to just snip my threads short. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start on this hole. I'm closest to the edge. And we're going to put it through that bottom hole. There. So the side that you want on top should be right here, facing that piece. Oops, and I just pulled it all the way through. Make sure you grab your tail. I'm going to be loose on that one. So I can go through here. Make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so make sure you don't lose that. Okay. Okay, so that's the last one there. And then I'm going to go through that hole here. We just have more wax there. Okay, so then I'm going to straighten this out. I'm going to tie a knot. So this is just a square knot or a double knot. Tight. And this part will be hidden, but we don't want it coming undone either. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with the other wing. This was the side I wanted up, so it's going to face the red right there. We're going to go in that one. Right there. Hold my tail. So this is where it gets a little bit trickier. You have all the things going on right now. That wing wants to keep getting in the way. Make sure the tail doesn't pull out. Okay, it's not done to the bottom. Tail's trying to pull out again. Okay, so that's my last hole there. So I'm going to come back out here. Okay. Then tie a knot. Snug. Trim. Knot. Make sure you're not burning your leather. Okay, so now that is what it's doing. But we actually wanted to do this. We want it to go in like that. So see if this piece of thread is long enough. Got a piece of thread left over from one of the wings. I'm tying it through the loop so it stays in the center. And then, oops. Okay, so we're going to tie the thread so the rectangle looks kind of like a bow tie. There we go. And there we go. That's what we want it to do. Okay, so now comes the real tricky part. Putting it all together. So right here, I'm gonna just stick it right in there. Okay, so I'm going to start at the tail. There's our tail. And then we have to feed the needle through each of our layers, which you can do, but it will be a challenge because there's not so much going on here. Okay, so I got it through the first hole. Now I'm pull my needle through, and I'm going to make sure my tail doesn't go away. I'm going to keep these first couple holes loose. That'll help me be able to see what's going on with the holes. The more holes that are stitched together, the easier it'll be to do this. Okay. 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 There we go. And now for the last hole. Oops. Okay. So here is where you start tightening it down. Okay. And go back just like we did with all our other seams. You just kind of have to wiggle the needle around until you come out on the other side. Kind of, if you can see the movements my hand is making. Just kind of moving the needle around, trying to find that hole, which I know is there. It's not angled right. There we go. Okay, so at this point I'm going to pull out my pliers. Okay. Oops. Pull that one a little tighter. So I'm just wiggling it around. There's a channel going through the holes with the thread out from the first time around, so as we snug it down, it gets a little bit easier. There we go. There we go. Just be careful not to bend your needle if you're using pliers. This part especially, we need a straight needle. Okay, so I'm gonna pull that. Okay, so we are just about done. Okay. Got one here, so I'm going to actually go back. And then, because I want the threads on the same side, I'll go back into that hole. There we go. Just pull those. And then, actually I don't need to tie a knot since I backstitched, so I'm just going to trim. I'm going to turn it so that my flame doesn't hit any of my seams. And again, holding it parallel. There we go. The wings fold to the front like that. There's a bit of a front corner. Use that as my folding point. You can see that thread I had in there, so I'm actually going to snip that thread while not snipping my cord. Pull that thread out. Okay, so I'm going to change the angle of that a little bit more. Okay, and there we go. A cool little crane. And then, carefully melt while holding the lighter perpendicular. Remember, if you're using your finger, be careful not to burn yourself or get an adult to help you. Okay, so now our crane looks like this. Okay, and we're going to bend the wings. There's this mark here. I use that as the start of the bend. And then I just kind of decide on an angle. If you've ever made a paper origami crane, the wings seem to be on an angle. Okay, so and I'm just kind of pressing, okay, as I like the angle. Oops, there we go. I've still got that red thread there that I was using to help, so I'm going to carefully cut that out. Oh, I think I left the knot on the inside instead of moving it to outside, so it's stuck. There we go. Good thing I had pliers. Okay, and now you have a leather origami crane. Actually, I've got that little bit there that I pulled out on accident. I'm going to melt that real quick. There we go. Even do that. There you go. Super cool. And I'm going to leave this thread on my needle so I can easily find my needle later when I need it for some other project.